All right, Kurt Helin with us on 107.7 The Franchise. Kurt, let's play. Let's go off the board here to start. Guy in the NBA, player or coach in the NBA who looks most like they would drive an Uber.
Wow, that's a good one. I'm going to go with, it'd have to be a pretty tall front seat, but I'll go with Zaza Pachulia, or somebody. Or actually, Ersan Ilyasova. He'd be the guy I'd get, I think. It just seems like, hey, I need some extra cash on the side. So.
Yeah. See, I defaulted to Mike Dunleavy, although I do think Mike Dunleavy is still a guy most likely to wear a braided belt in the NBA.
Braided belt?
If he had like 6 in his closet, would you be shocked?
Not at all.
Somebody, there is a nominee on the Twitter sphere from one of our own players, and that is Steve Novak. That probably fits.
Novak's not bad. Yeah, I can't see Steven Adams doing it, but Novak I could.
Well, I think the first Thunder person that comes to mind for me is absolutely Scott Brooks. He would absolutely be driving the Uber. But anyway, good start to the segment. Yes.
Some people around the league get the chance. He may have time to do it. So.
Oh, Kurt Helin with us. And by the way, we'll play Who's the 9 seed with Kurt Helin at the end of this interview.
Boston Celtics.
Oh, I meant in the West. Kurt Helin with us. All right, so we around here watch the Thunder just get absolutely annihilated by the Spurs. It's not the first time that's happened, but did anything that you saw in that particular game, or even recently with the Thunder as a whole, turn you off from them making the playoffs at all?
Not from making the playoffs, just because the Pelicans have faded, and the Suns. The Suns made their choices at the trade deadline. I mean, when they had to move Dragic, but moving Thomas was a sign that they were really thinking down the line, not this year. Although then they went around and traded that Laker pick, which makes absolutely no sense. But that's a whole other issue. I will tell you that people around the league are shaking their head over that one, though. Nobody gets why they moved that pick. So I don't think so. I think you guys make the playoffs. Honestly, I don't think as bad as that is. I think that's a sign of where your team is with all the injuries and everything going on compared to, look, when the Spurs are playing like the Spurs, they're as good as anyone. They're not doing it as consistently, but, your problem is that the West is loaded, and you're probably going to get Golden State in the first round, and that's a really good basketball team.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll get more into this as we get closer when we have you on, Kurt. Kurt Helin with his Pro Basketball Talk on 107.7 The Franchise. But let's just start doing it as a little bit of a primer for the next month or so. What would be the better matchup for a team like the Thunder? Not that they're going to vault up into 7th place anytime soon, but would say maybe the Grizzlies be a better matchup for this sort of Thunder team than the Warriors? Why or why not?
Yes, it would be for a couple of reasons. Aside the fact that Memphis has kind of stumbled the last few weeks, I'm going to assume that they find their groove again for the playoffs, but they haven't looked great. But more than that, you can, if you've got Ibaka back, even if he's not quite going to be 100%. You've got some size up front to match their size. Russell Westbrook is obviously a challenge for everybody. What makes Golden State so difficult is their versatility. They can throw so many looks at you. They beat you with depth, but they can also beat you. You want to go small? All right, they play Draymond Green at the 5 at points. They can do that. You want to go big? They can actually, not just Bogut, but they can put some size in there and be a problem. They can do their versatility. They can allow Steve Kerr to go, hey, your weakness is X. I can do that. Memphis isn't that way. Memphis plays Memphis basketball, and I think you stand a better chance of matching up against it.
Kurt Helin's with us here on 107.7 The Franchise. Kurt, I know that we're kind of surprised here because we didn't know much about him, but nationally, are people surprised at how well Enes Kanter has played so far for the Thunder?
I think he's been a revelation to some. Look, the guy can score. What got him in trouble with Quinn Snyder, what always kept him in the doghouse has always been defense, and then that's still an issue. And it's one of the reasons you guys obviously really miss Ibaka. That's the end of the floor that's been the thing that got him in trouble, and it's what it's the reason he was the odd man out in Utah, where they've had the best defense in the NBA since the All-Star break, and that's not just because they traded Cantor. It's because they went all in on the Rudy Gobert at center next to Derek Favors thing, and that Gobert guy is an interesting player. But Cantor can score. He can do a lot of things. He's really versatile, and there are 29 other teams who could, maybe 28, because I guess not Utah. They could use a guy like him. I mean, he does a lot. He can score inside and out. He's a smart player. So there's just a lot to like about him, and he's young.
Kurt Helin with us on 107.7 The Franchise. Bradley on Twitter says Google Uber driver and Nick Collison is the first picture.
Ooh, that's I forgot about him.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's actually not bad.
That's pretty good. Did you look at these ESPN rankings, the ones that are kind of trickling out one at a time here, the front office, the coach, and all that stuff?
A little bit, yeah.
Anything jump out at you?
Teams that win always end up at the top of that, and it's kind of, whoever the darlings are. Yes, look, I don't think there's any question that if you tell me who are the two best front offices in the league right now, it's and they do it differently, but it's easy to say it's the Spurs and the Warriors because they've been great. But I think that sometimes those rankings get caught a little in who's hot right now, who's doing well right now versus, some stuff off the court. I think that there are teams like Boston that are, and I don't remember where Boston ranks, but that I think is very well run, has set itself up beautifully for the future. They're struggling right now because they're in the midst of a rebuild, but I like how they've set it up, and I think there are well-run organizations that have dips. And some pretty serious dips sometimes. It's interesting to look, the Knicks and Lakers are at the bottom of that, and those two teams are always like one free agent signing away from, wow, what a brilliant plan Mitch Kupchak had. So we'll see what happens. By the way, I'm not that sold on the Lakers making that kind of return. It's just any big market has a certain advantage of even in today's CBA, I think it's way decreased. I think you need to build more like Golden State did, more like Oklahoma City did, if you're really going to build something sustainable. But I still think they're able to draw free agents, a major free agent. They just have advantages being in those markets, and then there's nothing you can ever do to legislate that out.
We all got a kick here. I mean, how serious is this whole? I mean, I feel silly asking because you're probably going to laugh, but is there really anything to this whole? You got us to click on yesterday on Tim Duncan betting on basketball.
Oh, yeah. Nothing really. I didn't write that headline. I
clickbait, Helin, clickbait.
I'm like, what? Wait, okay. I left it because I need clicks, but he bet $100 on a friend. Technically, but I suppose you could argue that it's violating the NBA rules, and I'm sure somebody will quietly go to him and go, "Don't talk about this."
Right.
But you have, if you guys around the Thunder probably have seen this, I can guarantee you around the league, the number of bets made on half-court shooting contests and other ludicrous things between NBA players, or hey, I can get 12 rebounds against this guy or whatever it is astronomical. Dinners are bet, money is bet, and again, for these guys, $100 bet is, the 45 cents I have in my pocket. If you're Tim Duncan, $100 doesn't mean a whole. It's small potatoes. So, it makes an interesting story, but I don't think it's that big a deal.
Yeah, I was at a Hornets practice once, Kurt. You'll like this. And when the Hornets were in Oklahoma City, and a ball bounced out as I was kind of standing on the court talking to a player right at half court, and J.R. Smith said, "Shoot it from half court." And I said, "Well, I'll make it, and I don't want to make you look bad." And he said, $1,000. I said, "I don't have $1,000." He goes, "Well, then 10,000." And he was probably serious, right, Kurt?
That's how it works.
Especially, that sounds like J.R. Smith.
J.R. Smith spends $1,000 in his first round of drinks at the club. Like that guy goes through money like water. So yeah, he meant it.
Something we have in common. No, all right, LeBron James frustrated with Kevin Love. What is this going to last? How good of a chance does this marriage have of lasting beyond this year?
They need some counseling. They need to know. I think beyond this year, for 1 year, it's going to last. Love will be back next year. They're meshing better on the court of late. They're starting to figure it out. they're very different people, and there's some like, hey, does this work, does that work thing going on to try to figure it out. But Love's not going to leave this summer for two reasons. A, he doesn't want to be seen as the guy who goes, that was hard, I had to leave. I wanted my own, I want to be the star of my own team. I'm going to go to the Lakers and win, with him, what do they win? 40 games, 37 games,
Right.
So it's not, I don't think he's going to bolt on it after 1 year just for that. And the other reason is he wants to be a free agent in 2016 for the same reason Kevin Durant and LeBron James and everybody else wants to be a free agent in 2016, which is the cap is going to skyrocket. And if you're going to a max player like those guys, you're going to make a whole lot more money in 2016 than 2015. So, he'll struggle through another year at, $15 million or whatever. He's going to make $16 million, I think it is, next year. And he'll struggle through that so he can really make some money in 2016.
All right, one word just to get out of the way, just for old time's sake. The 9 seed in the West will be?
Suns.
Jordy says, I went to Columbus, Ohio recently and had 5 or 6 different Uber drivers that were foreign. So I'll say Jose Calderon or Lynn Sanity, #global game.
Lynn Sanity went to Harvard, man. That is so not happening.
Oh, yeah, good point. Good point.
He will own Uber before that happens.
See you later, Kurt.
Take care.
All right, man. Kurt Helin on 107.7 The Franchise.